All right, we're back with another live stream. Got some stories to talk about today. I'm going to try and tie all of this together. I was just looking at all the stories, and right before I pushed the go live button, I was like, this does tie all together. So I want to talk about the state of Chicago. I grew up in the northwestern suburbs of Chicago. And then I left when I turned 18 years old, and that's when I went into the military. And but I still have a soft spot in my heart for the area. And it is actually sad to see what's going on with Chicago. I also lived in Los Angeles for a few years because I went to school out there, University of Southern California. And then my wife, future wife, was out there a little longer than I was. So I had moved back to Chicago to make some money for graduate school while she was still finishing up school. So then I would go back to Los Angeles. So again, I have ties to both cities, and it's very interesting to see them both implode. It was all very predictable in many ways. But I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the state of Spider-Man. Hint, hint. Marvel still hates Spider-Man, or more specifically, Peter Parker. I haven't read Spider-Man in quite a while, but things bubble up in my feed, and I see what's going on, and I know the story. So there's that. Elon Musk and the quote-unquote digital god that Larry Page would like to see dictating how we live our lives. Just a tyrannical digital god over everybody, and quote unquote culture wars and all of that, and how it all ties together. How YouTube madness. I want to talk about when they first get into YouTube, and then the algorithm, essentially they start becoming obsessed with the algorithm, and then at some point in time they become like Ren in Ren and Stimpy from the Space Madness episode. If you don't remember that episode, it is a classic. I don't know if they would like flag me here if I played a little bit of it.
You like the same things I do. Wax paper, boiled football leather, dog breath.
They actually cut out a part. There's another part in this, I think, right before that, where he's floating by and he's talking about like glazed ham and all this sort of stuff.
We're not hitchhiking anymore. We're riding.
So anyway, I want to talk about how people get into YouTube and then they decide that they want to be into the quote unquote culture war. And then the algorithm, it's this Pavlovian thing where it rewards very specific behavior. And then you start doing that. And as I was telling this guy, AGP, Webtastic Stories, we had a little conversation about this. Where is it? I was saying that eventually it slowly changes the person over time, and they become something different than the person that they were supposed to be. Because the algorithm rewards nastiness, the algorithm rewards division, and here we go. So, boop. There we go. All right, show more. And he was saying how basically, if you get into all this, you start serving basically Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, and just essentially giving them money, and they like it, and they like all the division and stuff like that. And I was saying it's sad because there actually is a place for serious commentary on the culture, but like I said, they get YouTube madness because they become addicted to the algorithm. They want to give the algorithm what it wants. So they give it more anger. They give it more hate. They give it more division because that's what will get you clicks. They say that like outlandish things just to get people going, oh, that was good. And what is, we really got them there. And it's all about who can hit somebody with the lowest verbal rhetorical blow and cause them the most pain. That's how you get really popular if you're into quote unquote culture war stuff, is you just have to basically be very adept at slinging vitriol at your political opponents. And again, the algorithm likes that.
Stop it. You're talking crazy.
And then you have like people that are like, hey, stop it. You're talking crazy. And then, of course, Ren, he doesn't see it because he's been changed by the algorithm. He's just like, yeah, I gotta get the SJWs. I gotta get the Trump tards. And they're just like clashing back and forth. I hate you. No, I hate you more. Ah.
Oh no! I know what you want. You coveted my ice cream bar.
And he's like, no, I know what you want. You want my YouTube popularity. Oh, you coveted my ice cream bar. Captain Frugal, Captain Cummings, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Come on now.
No, you don't. You can't take it from me now.
This is like, I'm telling you, this is a pretty accurate analogy for what goes on when people get into YouTube, and why I only come on once in a while here to try my best to navigate all of these issues in a way where I'm giving people something substantive to think about and mull over in the privacy of their own home.
I've had this ice cream bar since I was a child.
I've had this YouTube channel since I had 5 subscribers.
People always trying to take it from me. Why won't they leave me alone?
When I was a kid, man, whenever this episode would come on, I was like, yes, I loved it. I'd never seen anything like this. So anyway, so Ren's, he's resisting. He's resisting the people that are like, dude, this is not the path to go down.
Don't make me use it. Now you've done it.
Don't make me start drama with you. Now you've done it. I'll crush you with my channel.
You forced me to use it.
So Stimpy, he loves him. He wants what's best for Ren. He knows that this is, you're just going to continue to warp your mind.
I'm hurting.
And that's how it ends for a lot of people, because eventually they look in the mirror and they see that they've become this rage-filled monster where every single day the algorithm demands that they be angry and emotionally worked up and just like, oh, I hate these people. Oh, I hate them.
You poor crazy kid.
And that's how I feel with a lot of people. When I see these people, they start out one way years ago. They have so many hopes and dreams for how they're going to, affect people. And then years later, they've just turned into this, like, I don't even know, this weird Gollum-ish character who's just like, rah, and just filled with hate. And every single day, they're giving the algorithm the hate. But I got off track there. I wanted to talk about Chicago and how all this is related. So it's understandable that people would want to stop what is happening to Chicago and Los Angeles. They want to stop it from spreading. And so when they initially get into YouTube and Twitter and quote unquote, culture wars and all this sort of stuff, they mean well. They really do mean well, but that's not how it ends. So at one point in time, I just said, I would even argue that many people that see themselves as popular quote-unquote influencers are, in fact, unwitting victims of manipulation. The algorithm rewards nastiness division, so the new user gives the algorithm what it wants. It's Pavlovian. Okay, so over time, the person who has a legitimate point to make changes into a slave of the algorithm. They don't see it. Yes, perhaps they put in a lot of hard work. So when you put into a lot of hard work into something and you see results, there is a correlation between hard work and results. So yes, but they don't want to acknowledge that they were manipulated by the algorithm. But at the cost of the virtuous person they were truly meant to be. They're coarsened, opportunistic. They're a coarsened, They're a coarsened, opportunistic, unprincipled version of their former self who will now do anything to appease the algorithm. So that's my point. It's not that people don't work hard. It's not that working hard does not beget success. But on social media, there are people that are Machiavellian, malevolent manipulators, and they have created an algorithm that gives you the pellet of a subscriber or the pellet of a click or whatever if you feed anger into the machine, if you feed vitriol into the machine. So if you are constantly getting your little pellets like a gerbil or whatever, or like a doggy getting its treats, and you don't realize that this is a Pavlovian system that has been set up to change your mind and change you as a person at the deepest fiber of your being, then you're not going to see it. And you're going to be angry when people tell you that you have YouTube madness. You have YouTube madness, and you're going to become like Ren. Every single day, you're like a drug addict almost, and then you're angry because Ren called you out on what was going on.
Captain's log. I'm tired. So tired.
And then you're gonna want to get revenge on Ren for trying to help you.
Occupy his mind with more duties. I can control his space madness.
So don't become like Ren in Space Madness. All right, so let's get back to Chicago. It's on one of these here. Or do we want to go to Spider-Man here? We'll go to Spider-Man. So this was popping up in my feed. Let's check the chat. Xander, thanks for tuning in. Captain Frugal, I think the hate thing burns people out. Indeed. Captain Cummings says, my precious drama. Captain Frugal, people seem to forget that we can disagree and not hate each other. You can disagree without being disagreeable. That's the thing. But people don't want that. Captain Cummings, even your favorite political pundit falters. Captain Frugal, sad but true. Captain Cummings, the true culture warrior, prays the rosary every day and reads the Bible. Speaking of rosaries, boop. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely highly suggest praying the rosary. That will change you as a person. So if you spend, I mean, think about it logically. And, if you're not Catholic, just let's talk about generic prayers or whatnot. Prayers to God. If you spend 100 hours a week praying the rosary and meditating on the mysteries of Christ and his life, that is going to change you in a way where if you spend 100 hours on YouTube instead, trying to find a way to just really dunk on your political adversary, that's going to change you. You are going to be a different person depending on if you are praying the glorious mysteries or you are basically just tearing your political or, quote unquote political opponents to shreds. You become a very different person. So which one do you want to become? And I have found, just for me personally, that praying the rosary every night before I go to bed has, instead of going to YouTube and watching videos and these sorts of things, has made me a much calmer person. I'm able to roll with punches a lot better than I could in the past. I'm not in the comments section arguing with people, just inane arguments that just go in a circular manner, and everyone just walks away being upset, and then you can't sleep at night because some guy said something to you and all this sort of stuff. So you just, again, think about YouTube madness and whether you actually believe it's a real thing or not. But I believe YouTube madness is real. And I mean, actually, we'll talk about cultural madness as well. So back to Spider-Man. So I saw this popping up. For those that don't know, and Captain Frugal or someone could correct me if I'm wrong. So here's the thing: my comic shop, actually, the one that I go to, it closed, and they said it was a lease issue, and they're going to open up somewhere else, and they're going to be bigger and better than ever. Is that true? I don't know, but they have been closed since right after Christmas, and now it's mid-April, and they haven't moved. They're nowhere else. I don't know what's going on. So I have not been in a comic shop since, and then I was in Montana before that. So I haven't been in a comic shop in months because my comic shop literally closed. But I still get word on Spidey and see that. So if you don't know, something happened where Peter Parker and his wife were in some sort of other dimension, and time was warped and shifted, and there was a bad guy, and they were both there. And then Mary Jane somehow saved Peter, and he was exited from that dimension, but she was stuck there, and she ended up getting with some dude, and she had kids because time there was warped and different, or I don't even know what. But by the time Peter got back or saved her or whatever the heck happened, she had 2 kids with this guy who, I don't want to get into what he looks like. He just looks like a doofus. And so yeah, so Marvel hates Peter Parker. They constantly try and do things like this to him. But this is what I saw. So this is going around that Marvel is now telling writer Zeb Wells, hey, you might want to avoid the conventions because you're ticking people off and we don't know what's going to happen. Tagia, thanks for tuning in. Says getting a hotel room for Bell County. Oh, sweet. I'm telling you, Bell County Comic-Con this year is going to be sweet. I can't talk about certain stuff, but it's going to be sweet. If everything goes according to plan, particularly as it pertains to one of the guests there, it's going to be pretty sweet. So let's see. Captain Frugal, she said they are her family, so they could be trolling us, meaning that Marvel, you never know what they will destroy. Yeah, they give themselves an escape hatch or whatever. So, but the long story short, they have been dragging this out forever. Essentially, just anybody who's continuing to read the series, they are just punishing them. And it's like they think that you're a masochist and they just want to beat you and torture you with what's going on with Peter Parker. But now it's like they're playing the victim card again. So what they do is they do these outlandish stories where it's like, just because you could do something, it doesn't mean you should. So we can go back to Hydra Cap, the quote unquote deal with the devil Spider-Man, Norman Osborn, Gwen, whatever the rape thing, all this going back in time, that things that just really tick people off. And they're like, why would you do that? There's ways that you could put Peter Parker through a crucible, and then and he comes out stronger on the other end, and his relationship with Mary Jane comes out stronger on the other end. What you're doing is just mean and cruel, because you deconstruct the character, but you don't build him back up. And it's like you have a thing against Peter Parker, and so you actually have a thing against longtime readers who like Peter Parker and want him to be in a happy relationship with Mary Jane. And so you do this vindictive thing where you come up with stories. Yeah, we're gonna get him. We're just gonna. We know that they have an emotional connection to Peter Parker, so we're just going to find a way. I got a cough here. We're just gonna find a way to twist the knife inside them or whatnot. So that's what they do. Now, the debate, there are people that still cover modern Marvel comics and DC comics and whatnot. And sometimes I see people say like, well, there's a chance they're going to change. There is a insanely high probability that they are not going to change. Why? I'm tying it back to the cultural stuff, not just YouTube madness, but cultural madness as well, because the comic books are a reflection of the culture. You get Peter Parker, you get Hydra Cap, you get this weirdo Peter Parker tale where, again, they're just like blowing up his relationship with Mary Jane. You get Norman Gwen rape stories. You get all of this stuff because it is a reflection of what is going on inside the mind of the person writing it, or the editor that's pitching it, or all of these people that are working in the comics division at Marvel. This is what's going on in their minds, that this is who they are. I don't want to dehumanize them and say that but on a spiritual level, they are not on the same planet as you and me, Captain Frugal, Captain Cummings, praying the rosary in his house or whatever. They're not on. I promise you that Nick Lowe over at Marvel is not reading Fulton Sheen's Life of Christ, okay? If I'm wrong, Nick Lowe, let me know. But if this was the reading material that, if this was fueling his creative well, the editors over at Marvel and Zeb Wells and others, you wouldn't get the stories that you are in Marvel right now, because they tend to just be this morass of, as I've said for many years, moral relativism, and it's a bunch of very self-centered stories. And so that is why it's not going to change. Thanks, Frank, for tuning in. Frank, if you follow Fourth Age's argument, big media comics are not going to improve. So I have not watched that channel in many, many years. I haven't watched almost any YouTube channels. There's very few. Here and there I will, but for the most part, I don't watch a lot of these YouTube live streams or videos anymore. But I agree. If he says it's not going to improve, I agree. Again, because these people have marinated in this particular culture, and more specifically a culture that we'll get to the Chicago and the Los Angeles stuff. Here we go. Here's Los Angeles. Yeah. All right, so Los Angeles, we have hordes of these young people that are just going into some sort of gas station, or the Quickie Mart, or whatever you want to call it, and just robbing it, just grabbing all sorts of stuff off the shelf. This is Mad Maxian behavior. This is Escape from New York or whatever, or Escape from LA, whatever you want to call it. And this is what's going on in Los Angeles. We could go back to Chicago. If you didn't know, Chicago had this, again, the very similar thing where all of these young people were just burning stuff. You have arson, you have gunfire, you have people that are just finding innocent residents on the street. There's a video somewhere of this. If I Googled it, you would find it. We'd find it in a hurry. Choking out some woman who's just going into her apartment, and she's just trying to get inside, and all of these kids surround her like it's some sort of zombie apocalypse sort of thing, and they choke her out and they start beating her. And then Chicago's mayor-elect is like, hey, let's not demonize these kids. Again, they have also marinated in this particular culture as well. So they're imploding because we have a self-centered world of materialist where everybody is a victim. Nobody is responsible for their own actions. Materialism is king, and you have empty husks of people blindly lashing out at somebody, someone, anyone to make the universe, because they don't believe in God, make the universe pay for their meaningless lives. And their lives are meaningless because they've been inculcated since they were young to believe that the universe and their existence and consciousness is meaningless. They don't have God. It's a godless society. And when it's a godless society, they fill it with material goods. That's why you have them raiding quickie marts, raiding small businesses, burning them to the ground, because they try and fill the vacuum with material goods. And it doesn't matter how many Monster Energy drinks you have on your shelf after you've robbed the, or Gatorade, or what, Reese's Pieces that you robbed from the local store, or if you went to the mall and you were robbing Sunglass Hut or whatever it was, and you have, I got a $300 pair of sunglasses. It doesn't make you happy. They're not happy, and then it becomes this like cycle where they need more and more. They're trying to make themselves happy, and it never fills them up. Why doesn't it fill you up? Because your heart deep down has a connection to the infinite. There is a connection point between the finite and the infinite, where God is essentially breathing life into you every moment of your life, every breath that you take. And if you cut yourself off from the infinite and you try and fill it with the finite, it will never fill up. The only thing that could fill up something infinite is something infinite. Again, axiomatic. So over time, they get angrier and angrier and angrier. And so that's why they lash out. And that's why you get Chicago. That's why you get Los Angeles. That's why you get San Francisco and all of these sorts of things. And as I was saying, in response to the Los Angeles thing, a zombie apocalypse where mindless vessels seek your destruction is not as terrifying as an apocalypse where malevolent men with zero moral compass use their free will to tear apart individuals and institutions that previously held society together, civil society. If just a mindless robot, some Terminator robot is coming after you, that's scary, of course, because you're afraid for your life. But it's not as scary as living in a world where you could be walking down the street and someone could use their free will to just sucker punch you. The knockout game, if anyone remembers the knockout game, where just random people are walking down the street and somebody just knocks the crap out of them and concusses them. And then when especially if you're in a city, you hit your head on the concrete, you could literally die, and people have died. So again, tying it all together, what you see at Marvel, they tend to be a little bit more educated. So they're the educated moral relativists. They're the educated materialists. And so, and sometimes if you have a higher IQ, you could play the shell game, the spiritual shell game long enough to convince yourself that what is really happening is not happening. You just, every time the truth appears, you cover it up and you shift things around. And no, that's not it. Okay, I'm not happy because, the sunglasses weren't my thing. So maybe it's some designer bag. Maybe it's designer jackets. Maybe it's cosmetic surgery. Whatever the heck it is, they're looking for something, and they're really just trying to play the game, the materialist game, until they die. If they die before they come to the conclusion that they were wrong for decades of their life, then they've, again, convinced themselves that they're okay with that, because it's just the never-ending search. The journey is the important part. Well, yes, in many ways, the journey is important, but if you're starting from a false premise, the journey itself is false and actually sad and pathetic. And again, speaking of prayer, we should pray for people that are going through life basing all of their actions on a totally false premise that is unfulfilling and ultimately damaging, because at some point in time, you're going to step into eternity. So again, if you're wondering why you see what's going on in Chicago, Los Angeles, it ties into the culture at large, both the creative content and then the people that are pushing back against these sort of things as well. And as AGP mentioned, very, very intelligent people behind the scenes, oftentimes billionaires like a Mark Zuckerberg, they know what they're doing. They are manipulating people for their own profit. And so you don't want to go through life being manipulated by Mark Zuckerberg or whoever the heck is controlling YouTube at the moment. Elon Musk, whether you like Elon Musk or not, as I was talking about, now we'll get into the AI digital God stuff. Not God, the digital God, false God. Where are we here? All right. Elon Musk sat down with Tucker Carlson and he exposed Larry Page of Google. And this has been known for a long time. So when I worked at the newspaper, I actually covered stuff like this. If you know anything about transhumanism, gene editing, the mRNA vaccine stuff, CRISPR, the singularity, all of this has been in the news for a long time. And actually, like in 2010, I wrote a novel that I did not publish. Maybe I'll just publish it one day, self-publish it. It was all about CRISPR and gene editing and transhumanism. And essentially, what happens when you do you create a false god. And it was basically about this virus. My wife came up with the virus because she knows about all that sort of stuff. But it was a virus that affected people. And then whatever your vice is, it affects that part of your brain where you essentially become the living embodiment of that vice. So if you imagine the American population and everybody, whatever their vice is, whether it's wrath, whether it's lust, whatever the heck it is, they become the human living embodiment of that. They do not have any self-control. They are slaves to emotion. And so that's what it was about. But anyway, Elon Musk outed Larry Page and said that they were getting into AI. And Elon was like, hey, we got to find a way to do this in an ethical manner. And Larry Page called him a speciesist, like essentially saying, like, why do you care about humans? We're going to be more than humans. You want to talk about YouTube madness? You want to talk about space madness? Again, this is intellectual and spiritual madness. Larry Page is a madman. And whether you like Elon Musk or not, the fact that he would actually, how do I say this, put a spotlight on the fact that these billionaires, these very rich, very influential, very politically partisan people, politically connected partisan individuals, they're essentially psychopaths. They're psychopathic nutcases who want AI to rule over everybody. And he's calling them out. And he was like, Elon was like, that's where I threw my hands up. And I was saying, I can't be a part of this guy. I need to distance myself from him because this is really scary stuff. And the vast majority of people, the people that are unfortunately robbing Los Angeles liquor stores and Los Angeles gas stations and Chicago malls and small businesses, they have no clue. What Elon Musk and Larry Page and others are doing with AI in terms of research and the transhumanism and all of the CRISPR gene editing stuff, that is nowhere on the radar of these people in Chicago or Los Angeles. Might as well have been, Elon's into trying to get to Mars with rocket ships. He may as well already be living on Mars because these people do not understand that there are forces at work behind the scenes that are going to affect their lives in major, massive ways, in a really bad way. And Elon is trying to sound the alarm. And he said, hey, we have to do something about this. And I hate to be pessimistic, but Elon Musk in many ways is an aberration. He is a statistical outlier because the chances that someone like him would both be in a position to buy Twitter and then actually have the desire to do it and the means to make it happen. They did not want this guy to get Twitter because he got access to all the files. He mentioned in the same particular interview that the alphabet agencies in Washington, D.C., they had access to everything, including DMs. They're reading it all. They know. So you want to talk about Orwellian? People joke that, oh, that's just a cliche, Orwellian. No, we're living in an Orwellian nightmare, and a lot of people do not realize it. They don't have any clue, but we are there. We are in the Orwellian nightmare right now. And then it's like, how do you get out? And how do you get out in a way where you don't become the monster that you are trying to defeat? Who knows? Edwin, the Ace Acevedo, is here. Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. As I've said before, Edwin's always been a nice guy to me. Check out Edwin's work. And speaking of that, Clint Stoker has Downcast Volume 4, Hunting Ground, out right now. It's got 21 days left on his own campaign. He's got 150 people that purchase things, but on this particular site, you could purchase all sorts of stuff. So that's a little misleading if you think that people just bought 150 books. He's got all the different books that he had. He's got all like merch. He's got t-shirts and other things going on. So check it out. I don't know if he's going to go to Indiegogo. I don't know if he's going to go to Kickstarter. I've said before, I am highly biased. I think that he should go to Kickstarter. And in fact, that will actually lead into my conversation on iconic comics. All right, so we talked about Spider-Man. Doug Prize. Speaking of iconic comics, Doug Prize got to where it was supposed to be. So I've said before, every year I send out books to people. Sometimes they're nonfiction, sometimes they're fiction, sometimes they're comic books. I've sent out metal posters from Displate in the past. Although I don't want to get into that, but my personal, email and things like that, I've been getting a lot of spam. I think it came from them because they're based in Poland, if I'm not mistaken, or somewhere in Europe. Anyway, I've given out a lot of stuff. Life of Christ, Fulton Sheen got to where it was supposed to be. And every time somebody gets a Doug Prize from now on, I think about last year, how there was this dude that was trying to say that my Doug Prizes and the books that I send to people were quote unquote bribes to Soul Finder readers. And I'm like, really? I spend thousands of dollars over the course of years of my own money trying to bring a little brightness to people's days who read Soul Finder, and to actually give them the intellectual ammunition they need to get through life and to beat back the devil and things like that. And that's a quote unquote bribe. Okay, you go with that. Yeah, go with that, dude. So every time somebody is happy and they say something along the lines of the Doug Prizes are welcoming, especially when things are going a bit gloomy. See, that was the point all along, was to bring a little sunshine into the world of somebody who might be having a gloomy day. Somebody who might, maybe the finances are tight. Maybe there's something going on with the family. Or, like I said, maybe I just want to introduce people to really good writers, the giants of intellectual and spiritual thought over the course of history. But no, doofuses out there, dishonest doofuses, want to be like, Doug Ernst, he's bribing people. No, not bribing people. All right, so iconic comics. This caught my eye the other day. And so there's people out there, and this guy seems like a perfectly fine guy, a nice guy. But he does the charts of Common America and Black Ops and what's going on with Tim's campaigns on Kickstarter and YouTube, and he's got all the nice graphs, and he's doing regression analysis and whatnot, and trying to find the median sales number for Common America and Black Ops and all this sort of stuff. And again, nothing against this guy. I don't even know the guy. He doesn't follow me. I don't even follow him. But I see stuff like this. And sometimes people are online. And I've said before that there are people that are bizarrely fixated on iconic comics, but only seeing it through the lens of crowdfunding. If you only look at what iconic comics is doing through the lens of crowdfunding, you are not going to understand the blueprint. You are not going to understand what iconic comics is all about. It was never about solely crowdfunding. It was never about having some sort of exclusive club of creators. It was never about who is the most conservative guy out in the world who is fighting the culture war or whatnot. Iconic Comics was kind of about the question, what happens if you try to efficiently reach potential readers and customers on as many platforms as possible on a consistent basis with quality products at fair prices and in a professional manner? What happens? So that is a fundamentally different question than, hey, we got to do the horse racing thing and who's up and who's down and what happens if Timothy Lim and Mark Pellegrini sell 50 less copies on Common America 7 than they did on Common America 6. Is it over? Is it over for our Iconic Comics? Meanwhile, Tim and Mark are selling books and on the Japan Amazon best-selling list or whatever. They've got books on Iconic Comics that do very well throughout the year. They've got all sorts of other merchandise going on. They have the webtoons on a weekly basis on Wednesdays and all of this sort of stuff. They go to conventions throughout the years. Tim and I and Mark and Matt Weldon and I believe Bill Williams and Eric Canetti are going to be doing shows this year, and I'll be at Bell County Comic Con. And somebody earlier was saying that they're going to be at Bell County Comic Con, so thank you for that. Looking forward to seeing you, Tagia. I'm telling you, you're going to like it. Last year, there was 37,000 people over the course of 2 days that went through all the different arenas and all of this sort of stuff. They got car show type things going on outside. They got food trucks. They got, I think there was like a petting zoo outside, and the weather is always very nice. Now, if you don't like heat, you might not want to be in Texas in August, but just wear a t-shirt and shorts. Don't wear a long sleeve shirt and jeans and or a hoodie or something along those lines. But it's very nice. Anyway, the point is over and over and over again, there are these people that do not understand Iconic Comics on a fundamental level. So to me, it's like, if your whole thing is when you're releasing comic books, we're going to take down Disney, bro. If that is your lead, then your lead is clearly not about quality storytelling and quality art, because you are first and foremost in some sort of adversarial and warlike posture. That is what you are after. Now, the thing is if you want to have success on a cultural level, you can't put the horse before the cart. You have to basically concentrate on the storytelling, and you have to concentrate on the art, and you have to concentrate on the fulfillment, and you have to concentrate on lowering the price point and figuring out principled ways to market to get the word out. And then if the content is good, it organically, from the ground up, people will talk about it. People will market it for you. People will do the heavy lifting for you. And then over time, you continue to expand outward. That's what you're doing. I was talking to somebody else the other day who, I wish I could tell you who I was talking to, but maybe one day if all goes well. And he was telling me how much he enjoys Iconic Comics content. And he is first and foremost interested in Soul Finder. But we were talking about Long Harbor. We were talking about Tim's books, Black Ops, Common America. And I was saying, listen, for me, I think Iconic Comics is an idea factory down in Texas. And if people like it, they know that we're not going anywhere, because it's been years now and we continue to churn out content. So if you like what is coming out of Iconic Comics, we're patient. We're trying to play the long ball here, because how do I say it? If you are patient and if you do the right things, eventually your opportunity will present itself to explode on a much bigger level. And anyways, I was telling this guy, I was like, I think Iconic Comics is seriously punching above its weight class because it has no support from the mainstream. Marvel and DC hate us. And they will not talk about us. All their people, it's radio silence, but organically, people continue to spread the word about what Tim is doing, what's going on with Soul Finder and the other books. And, you have crossover events and things like that with Antarctic Press going on. And like I said, I mentioned the Japanese stuff going on. So, again, playing long ball, tying it all together. If you are into changing the culture, you got to focus on the storytelling. So people might come for the art initially. If you have really good art, they might buy it. But if you don't have a good story, if you don't have a compelling story, they're not going to come back for seconds and thirds and fourths. And they're not going to spread the word. And they're not going to reach out to you and ask you, hey, can you talk about what you're doing? Because I find this really interesting. So also, if you want to hear a serious discussion with substance on Soul Finder, on the culture, on spirituality, on the craft of storytelling, check out Art Table Talk. We did an interview the other day that was about 40 minutes long. Very good. He's reviewed the Soul Finder books in the past. He always has very interesting things to say, even when he disagrees with something here or there. He has very good reasons why he disagrees. And then also the No Heroes podcast. I actually shared a supernatural story with Christopher Lawrence on No Heroes the other day. So if you want to hear a supernatural story, that's in there. The front end is a bunch of MMA stuff. And then eventually around, I want to say about the 35-minute mark, maybe, we start to get into cultural issues, storytelling, and spirituality. So check out the No Heroes podcast. And also, if you have not checked it out, we did quite some time ago. I don't want to read this ad. We did an interview with Father Ripperger, who is a very well-known exorcist, and check it out. He would like to come back. He said he's game for coming back, so we're going to try and get part 2 at some point down the road. But he is a very busy guy, and a lot of people are vying for his attention. But check that out as well. And boom, boom, boom. Downcast, check that out. And let's see, is there anything else that I missed? Mentioned Doug Prize, mentioned No Heroes, mentioned Chicago, mentioned Los Angeles. And let's see. Edwin says, scary times ahead. I fear. Yeah, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. Speaking of getting worse before it gets better, again, you want to talk about a reflection of the culture at large. Here's this guy, Eric Swalwell, politician who got caught in a honeypot trap. He was on an intelligence committee, and he was essentially sleeping with a spy, a Chinese spy. And then initially, he wasn't even kicked off the committee. It's basically treason. You start sleeping with Chinese spies and talking to them about all sorts of stuff. At a minimum, this guy should have resigned in disgrace, but he didn't, and he's still around. And then, what's her face? MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene. They were in some sort of meeting, and he was taking these pot shots at Republicans or whatnot, and he was taking a pot shot at her, and she's like, dude, you were sleeping with a Chinese spy. And all these people were freaking out, and they were like, oh, this is totally inappropriate. No, it's super appropriate, because if you don't want people talking about the fact that you were on an intelligence community and you were sleeping with Chinese spies, then you probably should not have slept with a Chinese spy. That's how it works. You should be brought up. There should be a giant spotlight on you, and people should throw verbal tomatoes at you all day until you leave because you slept with a Chinese spy. Years ago, this guy would have been gone. He would have been out of there. He would have resigned. But again, the culture is where it's at. It's at a very sad place. So someone like him is defended. His own party will defend him. And they'll be like, you're just whatever, blah, 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 blah. I can see people be like, you're just jealous that he was able to sleep with a spy or something weird like that. You're like, where did we go wrong? I was saying the other day that if you reached a place where this was on the No Hero podcast, if you reached a place where we can't even agree on basic truths about men and women, then it's essentially game over. And God is going to say to you like, hey guys, I love you, but I think it's time to reshuffle the deck because you really screwed up the game. This game is over, and the only way that we're going to get out of this is if I, God, reshuffle the deck. So I would not be shocked if at some point during our lifetime, God steps in and reshuffles the deck. In fact, I am praying that God reshuffles the deck. I would love that. Obviously, it would be very painful for myself because I'm a sinner and I got a lot to beg forgiveness for, beg for mercy. But I will go through whatever pain I have to go through if it will reset the game and get people on the right track. So that's a whole other story. But here's the thing: Los Angeles, Chicago, San Francisco, New York City, all of these places, in some way, God's permissive will is allowing it. He's allowing these places to suffer the consequences of their own actions. He's allowing these places to suffer the consequences of their own unrepentant, sinful nature. And I know somebody out there is just like, oh boy, he's getting religious these days. Listen, I tried to be tactful for a long time. I tried to play spiritual patty cake with some people out there, and I tried to gently nudge you along and let you know that we're going down the route of space madness. But clearly that didn't help. So now I got to get more blunt, rhetorically blunt with people and be like, hey, we are at DEFCON 5, DEFCON 7, whatever DEFCON you want, that we're in a really, really bad place. And absent God, it's going to get really, really nasty. Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, San Francisco, you want a glimpse of hell? Look at those cities. They're literally tearing apart innocent people, robbing them, beating them unconscious on the road. They're defecating in the streets. They're urinating in the streets. They're tearing each other apart. Drug-addled populations of people that are walking around like zombies. That is a sliver, a tiny glimpse of hell created here on earth. So we're in a bad place. And if you want to get out of it, I'm telling you, sorry if this upsets people who are more agnostic or atheist or whatever who might be watching this. But dude, you need God. You need Jesus. You need Jesus in your life for real. So anyway, that's a good that's a good way to tie it all up. So I hope everybody has had a good week so far. Going into the weekend, have a good weekend. I will probably be back sometimes next week with another live stream. We'll cover some more political issues. We'll cover some more cultural issues. We'll talk about some comics some more. Thanks again to everyone who's tuning in. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. See ya.